Hey, it's Andy from Wheat Ridge Cyclery, just talking about tube care, something that you should probably think about at all times of the year, but there's a couple things that pertain to the winter in particular. So always carry a spare tube. I would go so far as to say you've got 2 tires on your bicycle, so carry 2 tubes because you could have a really bad day. When it comes to tubes, there's a lot of options. There's storm resistant, there's ones that have sealant in it. Most of the time when we're carrying something with us, we're carrying something relatively lightweight. Whether that be a butyl tube, just a regular standard inner tube, or something like a TPU tube from Tubolito or Pirelli or Schwalbe. These tubes are significantly lighter weight and packed down to, I'd say, 1/3 of the size of a regular butyl tube. So good thing to carry because you can pack 2 of these where you would otherwise just have 1 of these. I find that it's a good idea to put your tube in some sort of protective bag, just like a plastic bag or a Ziploc bag, something like this, before you put it in your seat bag or in a keg or something like that, however you carry your spare inner tube. And the reason for that is if you don't, sometimes the tube will rub against the inside of your backpack or your saddle bag and cause a hole in it. Nothing's more frustrating than pulling your tube out, fixing your flat, which is already a pain, only to have a hole in your inner tube and having to do it all again. So put a tube in a bag. This is how I do mine. I wrap it up in a piece of tape just to keep it nice and tidy, shove that in there. This is how small a gravel TPU tube can be, so pretty compact. The other thing I find to be very important is to make sure that you're using your valve cover, these little Presta valve covers, when you're storing your inner tube, because the valve, the tip of the valve, can puncture a hole in your inner tube when it's folded up on itself in here. So it's a good idea to make sure that you keep these on your spare tubes. In the winter time, it's a good idea to keep this on your valve at all times. These don't really do a whole lot. Some people think they keep air in, they don't. But what they can do in the winter time is protect your valve from getting all gummed up with mag chloride or wet, gritty debris on the road. So it's just easy to open and close the valve. So I recommend keeping that on your tubes or on your valves at all times. For any of us that are riding deep dish carbon wheels that have some depth to them, you want to make sure that your valve stem on your spare tube is long enough to actually stick through the rim so that you can put your pump on it if you need to. And if it's not, be sure to carry some sort of valve extender. There's a couple different types out there, and they can depend on the valve that your tube has, but carry some type of valve extender so that it will allow your tube to protrude through the rim so you can put your pump on it. The different types of valve extenders, again, depend on if you have a removable valve core or you have a non-removable valve core. So for a non-removable valve core, you'd want something like this from Toe Peak. Or if you have a removable valve core, Toe Peak makes ones with removable valve core. So there you go. Those are my tube tips for Wheat Ridge Cyclery.